welcome into episode 7 of For What It's Worth. It's your host, Calvin Silvers, and I am joined by Bryan, Erik, and Tyrone. And how is everyone doing tonight?
I feel pretty good. I just got a shave, a haircut, so I feel like a new man. I feel great, fantastic. Out of this world. I'm just playing. I feel good though.
Yeah, it's amazing what a clean shave and a nice haircut can do. It's truly is amazing. Bryan, how you been? I heard you say you were pretty good. Sounded pretty excited.
Doing good, Gotta love this time, March Madness. So.
Oh yeah, and we'll get into all that here in a second. But Erik, how you been?
I had a great Saturday night.
Okay, good. All right, good.
It was just absolutely amazing.
Hell yeah.
Any details you want to share, or you just want to leave it at that?
I'll prefer not.
Okay.
What are them ones?
This is one of those memorable ones, though. I get it, man. Well, they're the best ones.
Derrick Rose 50-point night, man.
Yeah, man. I got another question for you guys before we get into our topics. How's everyone's bracket doing?
Oh, it's done. My stuff done.
It's not terrible.
Mine's so
terrible,
good.
bad.
I the one I put in the chats or in the groups that win money, I have not been doing very good, but I did have one. It's not as good now, but it was top 4,000 at one point, so I was pretty proud of that.
Ooh.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. I was defying all types of odds there. Like
think
over 25 million made.
Put that on your resume.
I might.
I think I still have 3 out of 4 of my Final Four teams alive. So
I got all 4.
Me too.
It kind of sucks that I had Auburn losing the national championship.
I know.
So after that happened, I was cooked.
I was gonna say I had Auburn getting pretty far in mine. At least Final
They had
Four.
so many chances to win that game too. Just
So
missed
many.
layups, missing free throws.
Let's get into our topics because we're ready to talk March Madness. I'm sure everyone's ready to listen to what we have to say. We have some questions here that we're gonna kind of base this episode off of, but I'm sure our answers are gonna lead into other topics and other questions related. But we'll try to stick to these 4 main questions that we have here. And the first question I'm going to ask you guys, and Bryan, you're going to be first on deck, so get ready here. What is the most shocking upset in your eyes in the round of 64? Because I think in the round of 32, there weren't as many upsets, but the first round, we saw some good ones. Yeah, I agree there, Erik. But Bryan, in your eyes, what was the biggest upset in that first round?
Well, there's definitely a few that come to mind, but I think the biggest one for me is Oakland beating Kentucky. I think that was a great game to watch. Shout out to the guy who made 10 threes. Golke. Okay. But Kentucky is just kind of the last 3 years has just been super disappointing in the tournament. I know 2 years ago I had them go into the Final Four and they lost to St. Peter's, and then last year I think they lost in the round of 32, and then this year another first round exit. So they're just 3 years in a row of disappointing seasons. So don't like that.
Yeah, and I had them going far too, and they have officially made it on my not go far. And when it comes bracket time, I'm done. I'm done with them. All right, it's like a ban list for betting. Certain teams, players you don't bet on after they constantly let you down. Well, this is happening to Kentucky with me and my bracket. They're almost becoming a Purdue in my eyes here when it comes to filling out a bracket. Although Purdue is finally doing what they need to do. But yeah, that wasn't the biggest upset in my eyes, surprisingly. And that's just because of Kentucky's history as of late in the tournament. But we'll get into mine here soon. But Tyrone, in your eyes, what was the biggest upset in that first round?
In my eyes, the biggest upset, like we were talking about previously, was Auburn. That was just absolutely mind-boggling to me. I think I shared it in some group chat today. I tagged Erik in it that the Kim Palm ratings, the top 16 teams that are left at the Final Four, are the top 16 teams that are in the Sweet 16. The only one that's not in there is Auburn. Like literally, Auburn is the only one that's not in there. Every other team, according to Kim Palm, is in the Sweet 16 according to the rankings, and they're not in there. That is just ridiculous. Kim Palm had them as the 4th ranked team in the nation going into the tournament, and they're a 4 seed, so that means they're statistically playing. Come on now, like they're losing to Yale. That's to me, that is crazy talk to me. That's
the Ivy League kind of had themselves a fun little opening round there, but I agree too, and the fact too that Auburn let them come back for Auburn was up 10 midway through the second, and they let you know what I mean, and they let Yale come back. They let the Bulldogs come back. That's just not a good look. It wasn't one of those games where it was neck and neck the entire way, and you just lost on the last second shot or a turnover. No, you let them come back from 10 down. Just not a good look. So we had the Kentucky game. I like this. Different game so far. We had Kentucky. We had the Auburn game. Erik, in your mind, what was the biggest upset in the round of 64?
I have to go with Auburn as well for
Okay.
most of the same reasons as Ty, and it emotionally broke me, so I have to bring that up. Another one for a different game. I was honestly surprised by St. Mary's losing.
Okay.
Their defensive ratings were up there with Houston's, so I thought
Yep.
they were going to be able to. So I was actually pretty confident in that, but my bracket sucks. So what does that mean? But
Yeah, no, that's fair.
defensive rating wise, the whole season they were right there with Houston. So their offense probably was lackluster.
Yeah, and
when it came
that's the
time.
thing too. I mean, defense usually does carry you far in the tournament, along with great guard play. One that you guys haven't brought up that surprised me. I don't know. Maybe it didn't surprise you guys as much. Is the fact that Northwestern beat FAU. That was a surprise to me. One, because of the experience that FAU has in that run that they had last year, and the fact that Northwestern was down two of their players. That one surprised me a little bit. Did that one raise any eyebrows for you guys?
I mean, it's not really an upset. That's why I thought we were going larger. It's an 8-9 game. I didn't think that was in question, but I saw this thing that FA like a lot of people were like that do like the bracketology stuff were
Yep.
thinking the committee only put FAU in because of their tournament run last year. Like they think that
Interesting.
a lot of people don't think they should have made it in, especially over like
Yep.
Indiana State and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I just in my eyes I had. And hold on, Tyrone. I'll let you go here in a second. But just in my eyes, I had them winning in every bracket I made. I did not think Northwestern had a shot in that one. Tyrone, did you think Northwestern?
I was picking FAU. I was thinking their experience would get them there, and I also think
That's
that
what I'm saying.
the Big Ten outside of like Purdue annually, I would probably fade them in the first round just automatically because most of the teams usually don't succeed. But
And
this
Michigan
year, they're not
State.
doing that bad. And Michigan State.
I mean, Michigan State. I usually, yeah,
You can always
First
count on
round.
them.
Well, you said
State in the
first. You
first
said
round.
first round.
Yeah, first round. Yeah.
That 8-9 matchup is Tom Izzo knows how to get it done.
Yeah. Well, and too, the crazy thing is the FAU and Northwestern one, the Yale and Auburn one. That was the East. So the East had the most upsets because there was one more that caught me off surprise, and that was Duquesne and BYU. I had BYU going, I think, Sweet 16
I had them
in my
Ohio
bracket.
State, man.
I had Duquesne.
I knew it.
You did.
Man, you're lucky, Brian. Like
Yeah,
I still
Bryan, I
knew
didn't
that.
see
Like
that one.
when teams' biggest thing is like, oh, we shoot threes and we make a lot of threes. That just means as soon as I bet on them, they're gonna miss them. They're gonna miss them.
Yeah.
You live by the threes.
They're just gonna
you die
shoot
by
like
the threes.
30%.
Yeah, they're gonna shoot so badly. That's the thing too. Like if you can't guard and your biggest thing is shooting threes, the worst thing you can do is just shoot threes and miss them. Because after you don't shoot threes, you're effectively a bad player or a bad team.
Yeah. I mean, Duquesne had a good backcourt, and that's why I picked him. So.
Yep, defense carries you a long ways in this tournament, and that's been, backed up by stats. You can look them up. I don't have them right here, right in front of me, but I know for a fact that high defensive ranking teams usually tend to go pretty far in the tournament, at least Sweet 16, most years. Any more shocking upsets in the round of 64 in your guys' eyes that you want to talk about? Or are you ready to jump to the next question?
Do it like a swimming.
This should have been an upset, but they choked the living life out of their game. Nevada disappointed me very much. I thought I had them for a second there. I had him for a second there going to the Sweet 16 and upsetting Arizona. Boy, am I glad I changed that the morning before the first game started. So, because I watched the last, 7 minutes of that game, and it just looked like a bunch of fourth graders were playing basketball for Nevada. So, that's all I have on that one. So,
what'd you say, Kevin?
Don't ever trust a Steve Alford coach team, man. Terrible. Guy knows how to choke. Okay. Next question for you guys. Which number 1 seed has looked the most impressive to you so far? We'll start with you, Tyrone.
This obviously has to be, to me, UConn. They're showing no sign of any let up. They look just as good as they did last year. They're dominating. They're dominating their competition. They're easily sweeping them up. I have nothing negative to say about their team. Their big man, I feel like he's the most underrated player in the nation. He had 10 blocks last game. He had a triple double with blocks. That's nasty work. A triple double with blocks, like that's okay. He's locking it down.
All right, and before we get to you, Bryan and Erik, I do want to mention that all 8 teams seeded 1 and 2 advanced to the Sweet 16 for the 5th time since the NCAA tournament started seeding back in 1979. Bryan or Erik, before I know. I just want a yes or no. And if it's a no, then I'll let you guys explain more. But Bryan, do you think that UConn has been the most impressive? Just yes or no. Like, is there for you?
Yes.
Is that the most impressive number 1 seed?
Yes, that's why I picked him to win. So yeah, I knew this.
Okay,
this is what I was expecting.
Then Erik.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, interesting. And the only reason I say that is because I'll let you guys explain, but I'm different, and here's why. It's how you were bringing it up that they're killing it. They just look unstoppable, dude. They played Stetson and Northwestern. Northwestern is depleted, man, and Stetson was
all the 1
seed.
seeds are gonna have an easy walk, for the most part. Houston, Texas A&M is good, but besides that,
and out of the teams left,
Michigan State was fine.
Yeah, that's true.
And they walked
Michigan
in
State's
though.
not bad.
Yeah,
but look, out of teams,
exactly. That's my most impressive number 1 seed is North Carolina. But Tyrone, go on.
Of the teams that are left in the Sweet 16, Creighton is one of them. Marquette is one of them. UConn has smacked both of them. Like literally, they have beaten both of those teams by double digits in their. I just don't think that. I was going to say that North Carolina is my most underrated team.
Wow.
I feel like they're not being talked about enough. They have everything you need. They have
Yep.
RJ Davis. He can score on anybody. Baycott, a beast. But I just think UConn, like, they're the number 1 overall seed for a reason. They lost 3 games this year, and like they're showing no signs of any let up. I would rather have them do that than, like, I guess play like a close game like Houston did, when Houston just really played badly and they deserved to lose. They not got lucky, but they just happened to win.
And Bryan and Erik, I'll let you just kind of explain your thinking there with UConn. But like I said, and yeah, Texas A&M is a good team, and Houston only won by 5. Michigan State, they're not world beaters. They're not the best team in the tournament, but it's a Tom Izzo-led team. He's good in the tournament. They were hanging with them in the first, a little bit in that game, and so the fact that that North Carolina could pull away, that just shows me that this team. And like Tyrone said, Baycott, of course, a veteran on the team, shows up for these games. Your transfer that first round, Withers, season high 16 points, 10 rebounds. That was his best. And then against Michigan State, or RJ Davis, Harrison Ingram, those guys stepped up. That's what I'm saying. They have so many players that can step up any given night. They're not just relying on one guy. And if one guy's not feeling it, you have other guys that have stepped up, and that's been shown in the first 2 rounds. Yeah, they're not the toughest teams ever, but the fact that you've had 2 games and 4 different players have shown up big time, I think that says a lot. Bryan, Erik, either one of you could start and why you believe UConn is the most confident number 1 seed for you.
I'll go ahead. I still do think UConn is the most dominant 1 seed. I mean, Donovan Goodlane, didn't know he had a triple double and it was from blocks, but he's been playing great. But I wasn't before the question, I was actually going to go with Purdue just because I think that, like you said earlier, you said going into, like when I was talking about Kentucky, that Purdue's kind of, people have been a little worried because they don't want to get upset again. But I think that they played very well the first two rounds. Obviously, they struggled a little bit in the first half against Grambling State, but they hadn't played in a week and a half. So probably a little bit of rust was there. But they locked in the second half, and they dominated. And then they cruised past Utah State yesterday. So Zach Edey's playing fantastic right now. So we'll see how they play against Gonzaga. This will probably be their first real test. And if they come out and they look good, maybe this is Purdue's year.
Yeah, the only reason I'm not saying Purdue is because I think with Creighton that could be a potential matchup. I just think these teams are just going to outshoot them. When you don't need to go down low, Edey's not going to really be a factor. These teams are just going to light it up from outside. I think they're going to get Purdue out of a rhythm. So I just don't know if I'm super confident in them, so I'm still going North Carolina. Eric, why in your eyes is UConn? Why are you so confident in UConn?
Um, yeah, I mean, I was going to answer the question differently, but
Okay.
and then
Oh,
you
go
then
ahead.
you
Answer
framed it
it.
as a
No.
yes or
Yep.
no. I was also gonna go with Purdue.
Okay.
I do. I am most confident, like from here on out, in North Carolina. Um, but Purdue. This kind of touches on what you just said. Purdue has the second highest full season 3-point percentage. In all the teams that are in the tournament. Just wanted to
Yep.
point that out for you, Calvin. But I think I will go with Purdue because I mean, obviously, kind of the same boat as UConn, really. Like both their first and second games weren't, battle tested opponent or
Yeah.
fighting opponents, for lack of better words, I guess. But just I guess maybe because their standards are lower for everyone, like that. Them not losing in the first two rounds is somewhat of an accomplishment, I guess. But
Yeah, that's kind of crazy that we're talking about it like that.
yeah. Houston, that game was kind of scary, so I can't really go with them. It's probably, yeah, Purdue or North Carolina for sure.
All right.
Because
All right.
North Carolina has definitely had, the toughest second game by far. Well, Houston did too, but
Yeah. All right. And we're gonna get in our next question here about like other teams we're confident in. So we're not gonna skip over that. We're just going over number one seeds right now. Is there anything you guys want to add more about your number one seeds that you're confident in? I felt like I've said enough about North Carolina.
I would like to add this on. I feel like this is a thing that happens a lot in sports when people do things that haven't been done in a while. I feel like this year, just to make a little parallel in the NFL, people were like, no, man, no way the Chiefs go back to back. Maybe something I could have said. I think the same thing is happening with UConn. They're being so dominant right now that we're kind of like, all right, they're kind of dominant, but there's no way they go back to back. So let's start looking at other options. And I think that this really might be the team to do it because literally see no sign of them stopping doing this. They play San Diego State next, and I think they're the highest line. I think it's 9.5 or 10.5,
National championship rematch,
which is kind of crazy. Which is kind of crazy for that to be the Sweet 16, and their line is 10, and it's not like a San Diego State is not. That's not a chump team.
No. I'm glad you brought that up. That was a good transition to this next question. Two teams you're confident in and one sleeper team. And I'm just going to start off because my answer kind of goes with what Tyrone was saying. I don't trust UConn to go back to back. I just don't. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't even think they're going to reach the Final Four. I'm not confident in them. I am confident though in another team that's in that region, and that's the Iowa State Cyclones. Now that hurts me to say.
You're crazy, Calvin. You're crazy.
Hurts me to say, but out of that region, it's Iowa State. Their defense, unbelievable. They're holding teams under what 70 points, maybe even 60. Defense is unbelievable. They don't dig themselves in holes. They make shots when they need to make shots. If they don't get down by too much. That's what I mean by they don't dig themselves in holes. They hit the timely shots. They play unbelievable defense. And also, here's another thing. I don't trust Illinois. We were talking about the Big Ten and fading that. I don't trust Illinois now. It's getting too bright for them. Iowa State, I'm the most confident in Iowa State out of that East region. Now, I did say two teams, and I hate to be this guy. It's kind of a cop-out, but I'm going North Carolina as well. I know that kind of seems like a cop-out answer because I said they were my most confident one seed. But if we're talking about two teams I feel like can make it to the Final Four or national championship, those are the two that I have right there. I'll get to my sleeper in a second. But Erik, what are two teams that you're confident in?
Not looking at past years, just Purdue as a program. I like them a lot this year. They're way different in my eyes, but
I would agree there.
Just to be
that they are different.
And then like honorable mention, obviously North Carolina, but yeah, I'm gonna go Purdue and Duke. I think I'm gonna go Duke.
Okay.
Damn.
Any specific reason, or is that like a vibe kind of feeling?
I mean, maybe not to win it, but who are they playing this week? They're playing Houston.
Xavier's
You know,
Houston.
That's not
Duke has never beat a seed higher than them.
I saw that too, but I don't
no,
think I
just
think it said it hasn't been since 1994.
there just is
I don't anything before I was born don't count.
Fair enough.
yeah, I don't know. Just honestly, whoever wins the Houston Duke game, I think is gonna or Gonzaga. That's really it.
All right, fair enough. Bryan, two teams that you're confident in that can make a Final Four or win a national championship.
I think this is going to be the best Sweet 16 game going forward into this week, but I really like Tennessee. I like Dalton Connect a lot.
Interesting.
Ever since that Auburn game where I bet on Auburn, he went off for 40 that night and was doing everything. And ever since then, I've liked the way he's played, and I've been usually in past I haven't trusted Tennessee, and it probably is going to come back and bite me here. But I like Tennessee. They are the team that I have coming out of the South. I have them then beating Creighton and then Purdue. So that's one team. I also like Duke as well, but I will probably just pick like just I don't know UConn or somebody like that, just because you can always trust them. But I really like Tennessee against Creighton. That's going to be a fantastic game.
All right, and then Tyrone, you're two that you're confident in, most confident in.
Outside of UConn,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rock with a team that I feel like nobody is really talking about. That is Marquette. I think the Marquette has a great chance to go far. They play probably the worst team in the Sweet 16 out of all these teams. NC State, they're on their Cinderella run, which is all good. But Cinderella runs have to come to win. Marquette has been the better team all throughout the year. They're gonna have the best player on the floor. Their point guard is one of the best point guards. Probably maybe the best point guard in college basketball. So they'll play NC State, then play the winner of Houston and Duke. And Duke, I am not high on Duke at all. I think Duke is, this is not the best Duke team I've seen. To me, this is a mid Duke team. This is a regular Duke team with Jarrett McCain who makes TikToks and hits threes. So I'm not really worried about Duke. And Houston, Houston looks so shaky against Texas A&M. I picked them to be my original champion, but my faith in them has dropped so much. They look so shook. And if Texas A&M hit if their foot was not on the line like KD for two of those threes, that's probably game. They win.
Well,
then
go ahead.
Nah, shoot your shot, man.
I was just gonna say too, just going back, and like I said too, with North Carolina being a team I'm confident in, it could be like, well, Calvin, they went down 12 against Michigan State. If they do that against a good team, it's going to be hard to come back. I know they went down 12. Guess what? They called a timeout, rattled off 17 straight. That shows that they can focus up, shows that they can turn a tie. They're not going to get flustered. I'm just confident. I like this North Carolina team, and maybe me hyping them up might come back and bite me later on, and the universe is listening. I'm getting a little too cocky with it, but I just trust them. I don't see a reason not to yet.
Not a bad team. They were just in the national championship 2 years ago. That's not a bad choice. But another person I trust, I was gonna say Tennessee and Dalton Connect, like Bryan said too. But I think also at this point, I feel like I can't say he's underrated because I think he's balling out of his mind. Terrence Shannon with Illinois, I don't see how he's in that Iowa State game. I don't see how he's not the best player by far. I could see him easily going off for a 30-piece, a 40-piece potentially in that game and carrying them to win. And after that, they'll play UConn, which would be pretty tough. But I think that if he's able to maintain the baggage that he's in, that their sky is the limit.
But they got to go against that Iowa State defense, man. And I'm telling you, it's not a joke.
Your defense is only good. Well, they have to score. Iowa has to put that ball in the basket. Iowa has to put that ball in the basket. They're gonna have to do it eventually. They're not good. They're
Illinois, the second best offense, though.
Yes.
Okay, but
best offense versus best defense.
When you're holding teams to under 60 points, you don't have to. You just got to score a little more than 60.
I don't think eventually you're not going to be able to do that. You're not. I don't think you're going to be able to do that eventually because I just think the way that March Madness works, or in basketball, the way it works is that sports in general, great offense beats great defense. When a team is hitting the dude
defense wins championships
from Oakland who was hitting crazy, it doesn't matter. Some players, it just turns into a fact of it doesn't matter how good a defense you're playing. He is hitting crazy shots.
Yeah. Well, I just don't think Illinois is going to be able to get some of those shots that they usually get. And I think it's going to throw them out of rhythm. Let's go to our sleeper team. I'll start. I think it's got to be NC State. They're the lowest seed. I didn't even have them coming out of the first round, and here they are in the Sweet 16. So they're my sleeper. They proved me wrong. I can't say anyone else is a sleeper to me because, like I said, I didn't even have them coming out of the first round, and they're here. That I don't need to get more detailed than that. They're my sleeper pick. And with the confidence that they have and the way that they've been playing, they can do it. It's March. They got one more in them. I don't think they make a Final Four, but they got one more in them. I think they could lose in the Elite Eight if they do win, but I really do think they might have one more in them. It's gonna be tough. I think they might do it. What about you guys? Who's your sleeper? Anyone can go first.
Just a quick tidbit on NC State. They're the biggest liability for BetMGM if they win. Like they're gonna be down bad, just because they're like they're like the energetic team, so people are betting on them, and they're an 11 seed, so their odds are still like pretty high.
Yep.
So just a little fun tidbit, but
We know where that whistle gonna be.
this is usually where like the cinder. This is usually. What'd you say, Ty?
I said we know where that whistle gonna be for sure.
But a 4-day break, whatever. So
yeah, they get a longer break.
The momentum kind of slows down because it's not like 2 days back to back or like offsetting days. So, but yeah, obviously sleeper for because everyone like you said, this is the most amount of 1 and 2 seeds or all 1 and 2 seeds have made it. So it's hard to pick a sleeper when they're all 1 and 2 seeds.
Yep, and you guys are pretty confident in UConn, so no one was going to say like San Diego State is my sleeper. Like they're going to beat UConn. Bryan, Tyrone, is NC State your sleeper? Or do you guys have someone else?
My sleeper is still going to be Marquette. Last year in the bracket, I picked them to beat Michigan State, and they're literally running their same team back. They're missing their second best player. But last year, if you asked me if Marquette was in the Sweet 16, would they win this game running the same team back? I would say yes, and I would assume they were playing a 2 seed or a 3 seed, a higher seed. They're playing an 11 seed in NC State. And I think what Erik's saying too, like this usually where Cinderella runs into Shaka Smart's a good coach. All these teams have good coaches at this point. They have 4 weeks to scout you. When they played Oakland, they had one. They just played the next day, and that team was happy too. So I think they kind of got the luck of a draw with Kentucky losing too. Because if they play Kentucky, I probably would have took Kentucky in that game as well too. So I'm with Erik. I think NC State run comes to an end, and we see Marquette with a great shot to beat Houston or Duke. I think if they play Duke, Marquette would probably be favored by 3.5 points too.
I do want to give my props to NC State. I love watching DJ Burns play. He's a very exciting guy to watch. I don't think they're a sleeper team, but I'm going to give them the respect where it's due. I'm going to shout out Clemson here because I told you guys last episode that New Mexico was going to go to the Elite Eight, and that bit me in the ass.
I have them doing that too.
So yeah, they had a big win against New Mexico in round 1, then they beat Baylor. I think they can definitely play with Arizona. PJ Hall is a very good player. I think Arizona is probably the weakest of the 2 seeds still left in, so they have a good option. If they do win, I don't think they'll beat UConn, but I mean, Elite Eight is pretty successful for somebody who I thought was going to lose the first round.
No, great pick. Yeah, great pick because if you didn't say them, I was just going to ask you guys if you thought that they were a sleeper because I didn't even – well, one, I didn't have them out of the first round, but once I saw they got there, I was like, oh, there's no way they're beating Baylor. There's just no way. If I would have got a second chance in the round of 32 to remake my bracket, I would have had them losing. And so I got to agree. They're kind of a sleeper too. But like I said, just NC State being the lower seed and the fact that I didn't have them getting out in the first round, that has to be my sleeper. Last question for you guys, and then we'll wrap it up.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't even know if I fully answered this question. My actual sleeper, I kind of am contradicting myself from 10 minutes ago, but I think Gonzaga not getting like super hyped up before the tournament is giving them like a cool down. Like they're playing great.
They're playing good basketball.
I mean, if they beat Purdue, they're gonna have some gas. They're gonna have some gas to go. That could be my sleeper.
Yeah, like stress.
I got a Final Four bet on them, so I'd also love that.
There you
I'm
go.
rooting for you, man. I hope it goes through. All right.
Thank you.
Last question, guys. what would you rank this year's Sweet 16 field? I'll start, and then you guys can kind of follow. And less upsets. Like we have less lower seeds in with some of the higher seeds, but I think that's all right for this year because I think the men's sport during the regular season was kind of dying a little bit. And I think now that we're actually seeing the best of the best are going to go at it, it's more exciting again. Like I said, I'm going to see Iowa State, the best defensive team, against Illinois, one of the best offensive teams. North Carolina, Alabama. That's just an intriguing matchup in itself. Like you said, Creighton is a fun team to watch. Ashworth hitting those threes, like that's just an electric team. They can make runs. Purdue in that storyline, and then as Erik just mentioned, Gonzaga, they don't have as much pressure. It's the best of the best, and that's what the sport needed right now. You don't need games where there's going to be blowouts in the Elite Eight because it's a 15 seed going against whatever would that matchup would be at that point. This is what the sports need, and in that case, I got to rank this year's field like an A plus almost. This is what it needed. Usually I like a little more lower seeds in there. Not this year. This is what they needed.
No, I 100% agree with you, Calvin, with the way that college sports is working. In the next 10 years from now, it's going to look so different. The Pac-12 is not going to exist anymore. The Big 12, all Big 10 taking up UCLA, USC. It's going to look so much different, especially with college basketball and college football too, with coaches like Nick Saban leaving, coaches like Coach K, they're gone. Like all these old faces in the way that old college sports and college basketball existed. I think that this year is a year for all of those questions to be answered. Like, is UConn the next dynasty that we have coming off of back-to-back? How is North Carolina going to do with their new coach? How is Duke going to do with their new coach? Are they still the true blue bloods? Things like Kansas is looking like, man, they're a question mark. They used to be really good in the past, but are they that good now? Is the Big East the most dominant conference in college basketball with Marquette and UConn and Creighton? Like all of these questions I think are really, really good for us to have, and they're going to be answered. And I think like you were saying, Calvin, last year, none of those questions really got answered when you see teams like FAU and San Diego State, because we know those aren't powerhouse programs. They just got lucky. We're trying to see who the next team is. Like, wow, these are our powerhouse programs. Or teams like Purdue. Like if Purdue wins this, that would solidify them as like, wow, Purdue was in this time frame, that was a dominant team.
Yep. And I agree with you. What we saw last year was fun. That was fun for a season. We saw some teams that we never thought we would see there, and it was fun. We were all enjoying it. But you're right. At the end of the day, we got to know some of these answers, or some of the answers to these questions. And you're 100% right. Now those are getting magnified as the tournament's going on. What will a blue blood like Kansas? Can they rebound? Even Kentucky now, they're questioning their head coach, and they signed him to a lifetime contract. And so these new storylines are starting to be built or starting to break through. And I think that's going to rejuvenate the guys' side again, the men's side again, because as I said earlier in a podcast, the women's side was focusing on single players: Clark, Juju, Angel Reese. I can go on and on. Paige, I can go on and on. Men's teams, they didn't really have that star power like that. It was more team oriented. But now we're seeing the best of the teams go against the best of the teams and the Elite Eight, Final Four, Sweet 16. It's going to get so competitive. I think all these games are going to be close. We're going to start having questions answered. It's what this game needed. Bryan, what would you rank this year's Sweet 16 field?
I think it definitely deserves an A. I mean, the first game off the rip is rematch of last year's national championship. Even though San Diego State maybe shouldn't have been there last year, but they got there and they earned it. So maybe they don't get blown out like they did in the national championship. But I mean, that's the storyline is there, which is going to draw people to watch it. Then the next game in the East, Illinois, Iowa State, like we talked about earlier, one of the best defenses versus one of the best offenses. Going to be a great game. North Carolina's been playing good. Alabama is a high-scoring team. That'll be another good shootout. You got Clemson, who I didn't think was going to be making it this far with the Caleb Love story. If Arizona wins, then they play UConn, and then Caleb Love gets his rematch against the team he used to play for. That's going to be exciting. And then you got Houston and Duke. Obviously, Duke, Blue Bloods back there. Houston, all that. Then Marquette, kind of swept under the rug, injuries, all that. The playing against the sleeper team, that should be exciting. Then you got Purdue, the team that's maybe correcting their mistakes from they have in the past year. And then, like Erik said, Gonzaga coming under the rug. That'll be a great matchup. And then I think the best game of the Sweet 16, Creighton versus Tennessee, that's going to come down to one possession. Whoever has the ball last, I think, is going to win that game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just you listen to all those matchups, and I'm just like, yep, that's gonna be a good one. Yep, that's gonna be a good one. Yep, that's gonna be a good one. And I should mention, I didn't think like the women's, side was taking over the men's completely. I didn't think that it was gonna be like a significant drop off. Like, oh, only a million people filled out a bracket this year. No, that's not what I'm saying. I didn't think it was the guys or the men's game was completely dead by any means. I did think it took a step back this year, but now I think it's regaining that speed again, and the tournament is, a perfect time to bring in those people again. And like I said, there's over 25 million people just on ESPN that filled out a bracket. This sport is still very, very popular. Erik, what would you rank this year's Sweet 16 field?
Yeah, I don't think you can give it lower than an A, just because like everyone already said, like all the good, like the 1-2 seeds. NC State snuck in there 11. They're the only double-digit seed in the Sweet 16. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's the expected teams that are going to be there. So, it's going to be great matchups. I don't expect, many blowouts. So.
Yeah, I don't either.
Hopefully
so.
not.
Nope. And like I said, this is what the game needed. So that was kind of our wrap up / review of the round of 64 and 32 and the kind of a preview of the Sweet 16. Is there anything that you guys wanted to talk about? Any teams, any matchups, anything that I did not mention that you guys wanted to touch on real quick?
I would say, going off of what Erik just said, I do think there will be 2 games that are double-digit points. I do think that UConn is going to beat San Diego State by double digits, and I do think that UNC is going to beat Alabama by double digits. I think Alabama has been beyond lucky to get this far. If you play defense that bad, eventually you're going to get blew out because your players are going to miss shots.
I could see that being like an 8-point game, 8 to 10. So yeah, I guess double digit. I could see that.
North Carolina is the most bet team right now to cover the spread in the Sweet 16 round.
They just look so good. They
only
just look so
minus
good.
4.
I know.
I think
the start of the
That's
game
pretty
against
small.
Michigan State was bad, but they've looked good other than that. It was episode 7.
I got one more thing. One
Let's hear it.
more thing. I cannot wait. I cannot truly, truly, truly wait for the Broncos' new quarterback to tear up the Chiefs secondary because they traded Jerry Sneed. Let's go, man. Let's go. Let's get it.
We'll
Hey,
save that for
we got McDuffie, bro.
yeah, we'll save that for a
Who?
future podcast. But no,
Stop.
don't do that.
Stop.
Don't be
You
doing
make
that.
yourself look stupid, Ty.
They still got a good core there. So not obviously losing. I'm not saying like losing Legarius is nothing. Like, oh, they'll be completely no. Hey, that's a big hit, but they still got some good pieces there. But we'll dive into that in a future episode. But I think that wraps up our NCAA tournament episode 7. If you're listening on YouTube, go ahead, leave a like, comment who your national champion is and what matchup you're most excited for. Go ahead, after you leave a like and comment, go ahead, subscribe, and then send the link to your friends. If you're listening on Spotify, we appreciate that as well. Go ahead, like/follow the page, give us 5 stars, and then go ahead and send that off to your friends as well. And then for clips of episodes and just updates, go ahead and follow our social medias. You can follow our Twitter/X account, whatever you want to call it now. You can follow our TikTok account. It's all at FWIW Sports Pod. I'm Calvin Silvers. I was joined by Bryan, Erik, and Tyrone. And until next time, hope everyone has a good one.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
This is a heart.
Go Volunteers.
I can't do the heart.